Welcome to Football Today, power rankings for week 6 of the NFL, where we rank the power. We tell you who's the most powerful in this. Myself, Bobby Skinner, here with Justin and Penik. No Rose for like 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, he's going to be in London calling this weekend's game. And then I think he said him and the missus are going to take some time off.
Awesome. They're doing it. He'll be covering some football over there. We'll be covering football right here at home in America. Justin, who is going to be the most mad at us this week? Even though we have separate weeks, so we can have separate people that are mad at us.
Yes, and we do have separate lists. We will have separate last week was the first one that we did the 2 different lists. This is a lot easier to view this if you're on YouTube, by the way. I'm going to ask you because we're pretty in sync this week, man. There's some differences that we have of like 3 spots. Like the Bears I have higher than you. But what do you think?
I actually think the Bears might be the team that is most mad because they're 4-2, and they're like, I have a 2-4 team that I think is above them, right? And the Jets, so they'll find that one team that they're supposed to be below. Because hey, Bears land is happy right now. They should be. Caleb's playing awesome. That defense has been good all year long. And I think the Bears have done the right thing of beating up on their opponents, but I still don't trust that offense fully for the year until I see them beat up on play well against some good defenses. But I'm like super stoked about Caleb. Like I don't have any doubt about Caleb. The deep ball stuff, that's got to show up eventually. But I don't trust that offense yet to really feel great about them.
Yeah, so I actually do. I have the Bears at 12. You have them 15. And the team that I have directly in front of the Bears is the Falcons at 11. And I have the Eagles, Chargers, Jets 13, 14, 15, Seahawks 16. Like I kind of am buying into the Bears team right now, like as a team. It's not just a Caleb thing. It's like this defense is just really, really good. They have played some easy opponents, so that was going to be one of the things that if we weren't going to talk about the Bears at the top, I was going to ask you, do you think the Bears kind of pulling it together the last couple of weeks is a symptom of their opponents, or do you think they can continue it against some of their tougher ones? So who do they have this week?
I think the Bears can be a 9-win team or so. But here's what my biggest issue with the Bears is. I think they are clearly number 4 in their own division.
And I don't think that's a shot at them. I just think that's
that division is great, but I think they're the most flawed team in a division, and that's just gonna drop you down. Like they're gonna, hey, and I think they can go. That defense can allow them to go toe to toe with some opponents. Good opponents, but I need to see it. I need to see that offense show up against the good opponents before I fully buy in. And I'm ready to, right? If they like, what's their next, 3 games?
Speaking of a bye, they do have a bye this week, and then it's at Washington, at Arizona. So 2 away games coming off the bye.
Maybe the 2 worst secondaries in the NFL.
And then you're playing New England. Then you have 3 home games.
So they're going to win games.
Green Bay, Minnesota.
They're gonna win games until they have to play their own division.
Yeah, listen to the stretch. Week 11 through 13, it's all divisional games. Green Bay, Minnesota, at Detroit. Isn't that crazy? The NFL did that to them.
Yeah, and then they have to play them all again in the last 4 weeks of the season too.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
I think the Bears are gonna get out of this stretch. Feeling good. Maybe possibly even 7-2. Conventional wisdom would tell you they'll probably come out, 6-3. But to me, it's about, can they split against their divisional opponents, or get swept by one and then sweep another.
Yeah, since week 3, since they started 0-2, Caleb Williams is 4th in a EPA CPOE composite. So it means that he's been the fourth most efficient fourth most efficient quarterback in football since week 3. That's what that means.
And he's looked awesome. I don't have any doubts about Caleb. Again, the deep ball worries me, not long term, but it's like he's been, like, I think him and Daniel Jones have the worst completion percentage outside of Tyler Huntley in the NFL, completing them. And there's been guys that have been open. It's not just difficult throws. Have been wide open guys he's missed. So I worry about that for this year. And I still don't fully trust Shane Waldron. I know he did some fun stuff versus Jacksonville. But I don't trust Waldron in that run game. I like that they've gotten under center a little more and made it a little bit easier for DeAndre Swift. But I don't like DeAndre Swift in that running game overall. But they should get out of these next 3 games 2-1.
Should.
Like I think the Commanders, the Cardinals, and the Patriots are all winnable games for them, right? They should beat the Patriots and Cardinals, but I also can see both those teams as being as a loss. But if one of those games is a loss, they need to upset the Commanders then.
Right. All right, so that's hopefully we didn't make the Chicago fan base. Well, you made the Chicago fan base,
which is crazy because I'm a Chicago guy. Like I love the Bears. I actively root for the Bears, but I'm not totally bought in yet.
All right, Bobby Skinner, let's get to the 25 to 32 tier. It's the first tier that we talk about every single week. Rattle me off your teams.
At 32, I have the Miami Dolphins. 31, I have your Tennessee Titans. I wish I could get them higher. 30, I still have the Cleveland Browns at 30. That offense is historically bad, but that defense still has talent. They've had a special teams touchdown. So I think they have the most talented unit out of the bottom, 3 teams with their defense. 29, the Jags. I know they've been awful, but I would pick them against, all those teams, even though the Browns did beat them. 28, the Las Vegas Raiders, Tom Brady's Raiders. 27, the Carolina Panthers. 26, the New York Giants. And then 25, I have your New England Patriots and Drake May. What about you, Justin?
I have the Browns at 32. They're dead. And
the bottom 3 for me could have been interchangeable.
Yeah. And honestly, this bottom tier, a lot of these teams can be interchangeable, but I decisively have the Browns at 32 because I just think it's not just okay. Yeah, their defense is okay and whatever, but I think they have one of the worst offenses in football in like most recent memory, and they're not. They just traded away Amari Cooper, so it's going to get worse, and then they're not anywhere close to making a quarterback change, which they should. For the sake of the other 52 guys on that roster, they should. 31, I have the Dolphins. Tua is going to come back at some point. I think he can be activated week 8, but it sounds like maybe that's not going to happen. The Raiders at 30, the Panthers at 29, the Titans at 28, the Patriots at 27, the Jags at 26, and the Giants down to 25.
What do you want to talk about first?
Yeah, I don't really want to spend too much time on this bottom tier because I feel like I feel like the middle of the NFL right now is very, very fascinating. I will just say about our Giants, I mean, we just spent a lot of time on it today. If you're a Giants fan, you want to hear Giants' perspective on Andrew Thomas going down for the season. We talked about it on our mailbag today.
Do you think there's anyone who's a Giants fan who listens to football today but not talking Giants?
A Giant, I don't know. I don't know. That's honestly a good question.
I feel like there's got to be at least one person out there like, oh, you guys have a Giants podcast?
But no, Thomas goes down. We know, if you're a football fan, you know how important left tackle is. I think it's the second most important position in the game of football. Andrew Thomas, when he's healthy, is one of the league's best left tackles. And he's really been the fuel for that Giants offense the last couple of years. Even when it hasn't been very good, he's been a stabilizing player. And sometimes he's the difference between it being, below average or going up to average or even above average at times. So
the on-off split with Thomas is insane. I don't know if there's any other tackle who's has that. Like he's a special player. Like he played the second half of that game with the Liz Frank injury. Yeah. And he beat I know he gave the sack to Trey Hendrickson the first half, so we can talk about this because it was on prime time because people watched this matchup and they highlighted it on Sunday Night Football. Like Trey Hendrickson beat him for a sack on that play-action play in the first half. And then Chris Collinsworth was like, I know he got him on that sack, but Thomas has been handling him all game, and he did. And then he gave up a sack on that final drive of the game. But he's played the entire second half for the Liz Frank injury that has him out for the season. Tough-ass dude. But that has been the Giants' most indispensable player. I truly think he's their most important player, where this could really bottom out for the Giants. The Dolphins get Tua back. The Titans start to improve a little bit on offense. like they could be in that 30 to 32 range within a couple weeks.
Yeah. And the Patriots, so they have the Jaguars this weekend. I'm kind of expecting Drake May to, not just have a good game when you look at it with some good throws. I think you have to expect Drake May to throw the ball a little bit on this Jaguars defense, right? I mean, everybody has.
Yeah, I'm expecting them to win. Like their defense is I know they just got the doors blown off by the Texans, but like that defense is still, above average. And I think Drake May does give them some juice, man. I think, we've talked about it on Monday, Justin, that Pop Douglas is now a name that people are going to start to know. He was like my sleeper coming into the year, and he didn't do much. And then he has one game with Drake May, 6 catches, 90 yards, and a touchdown. And honestly, he's a couple inaccurate passes away from, having over 100. Where now he's a guy that's being, people are using, fob in fantasy football on him. I missed out on him this morning. So I'm actually a little bit excited for the Patriots. I still don't think Gerard Mayo is a good coach, but that defense is good enough, and I think Drake May brings them some juice. It's just, can the offensive line allow them to do anything? Because that offensive line is disastrous still.
Patriots plus 5.5.
And you know me, I don't pick against the Jags in London. I'm picking against them. The vibes are awful in Jacksonville right now. Doug Peterson is like a dead man walking there.
Yeah. So this will be a big, I kind of consider this not even a litmus test, but if Drake May has a good statistical game, then I feel a lot better about playing him for the rest of the year, even if he does struggle with certain opponents.
Yeah, he has to. They need to look good in this game. There's no reason not to.
They need to look good. That's it for this bottom tier. I think there's a ton of way more interesting conversations to be had 24 through 17 with some of the teams that we have. So why don't you take it away?
You said to read my 17 to 24?
Yes, please.
24, I have the Denver Broncos. I want to like the Broncos more, but they have a Bo Nix problem. 23, the Arizona Cardinals. They're the flip-flop team of the year. They'll look great one week, bad the next. 22, the Colts. 21, the Los Angeles Rams. 20, your Cincinnati Bengals got their second win of the season. 19, the Dallas Cowboys after getting blown out by the Detroit Lions. Number 18, the New Orleans Saints, coming off of a 4-game losing streak. Figure it out. 17, the Seattle Seahawks.
24, I have the Denver Broncos. I'm excited to watch the Broncos on primetime. Can't believe I'm saying this.
The only person that said that this week.
I am, because really it's not a team that we've watched all that often this year. It's going to be a nasty game. Broncos Saints. Broncos are favored by 2.5 points, but I want to watch Bo Nix. I haven't fully committed myself to watching a full game of Bo Nix, and that Saints defense is pretty solid. So I will be evaluating, and I will be having all of my Bo Nix takes based off of this one game on Thursday Night Football. I have the Broncos at 24. It's a shame they lost because I think that defense is really good. The Rams are 23rd. The Colts are 22nd. We both have the Colts at 22nd. I have the Cardinals at 21st, a team that I want to love, a team that can be fun and frisky, but they're just so inconsistent. I have the Saints at 20. I have the Cowboys at 19. I have the Bengals at 18. We're back, baby. And I have the Steelers at 17. Bobby, I want to talk about the Colts. Do you know right now, if the season were to end today, which this is such a dumb conversation to have in October, but if the season does end today, they're 3-3. They're the last seed in the AFC in the playoffs, and they have the Dolphins this weekend with an opportunity to go 4-3. Now the schedule after that gets bad. It gets very bad. So hang on for this ride. Texans, Vikings, Bills, Jets, Lions. You're talking about losing 5 games in a row, right? But then you have the Pats, bye week, Broncos, Titans, Giants, Jaguars. They could go, if I'm doing my math right, I think they could go 9-8. If they lose the games that they're expected to lose, and if they win the games that they're expected to win towards the end of the year. But quarterback is a huge question on who is quarterbacking this team.
Well, they're going to play Anthony Richardson. And the question is, can Anthony Richardson hit basic throws? Like, Joe Flacco has flat out been a better quarterback than Anthony Richardson. And so they're getting ready to downgrade at quarterback. And I know that defense isn't like awful in points per game or anything. I still think it's a pretty damn bad unit. I don't have faith in the Colts. like at all.
Do you think there's any conversation in that building? They are going to beat the Dolphins this week. If they don't beat the Dolphins this week, then I think, okay, you can run Anthony Richardson back out there and whatever happens. But if you're 4-3 and you're in the playoff hunt at the end of October, and Joe Flacco has just looked that much better than Anthony Richardson.
But I think Richardson's going to play this week, though.
He's going to. They're going to beat. They are. I think even with Richardson, they're going to beat the Dolphins.
I agree with that, but it just. I don't know. I'm not sold on this Colts team. I think they're really well coached on offense, but I think they have an Anthony Richardson problem. And that defense, you look, they're 18th in points per game, not that bad. I think they're much worse than that.
They've also played some really bad opponents since week 2. I mean, they had the Bears.
Oh yeah.
Caleb Williams was throwing interceptions left and right week 3. The
Steelers,
Steelers,
credit to them, they did that. But the Steelers, the Jags, then they lost to the Jags. But
yeah, and the Titans, who they gave up 37 points to the Jags. So I don't know. It's just a very interesting schedule when you look at the Colts. Richardson's going to come back, and the whole element of Anthony Richardson's probably going to get hurt at some other point too. So then Flacco will be back in, and I don't know. It could get really ugly for the Colts, but then you're going to look up maybe week 16, and they're in the playoff hunt because they're going to play the Titans, the Giants, and the Jags the last 3 weeks of the season.
Yeah, so
fascinating.
You mentioned the teams they've played, so it's not just like, you have to play weak teams. You have to beat the weak teams. So it's not just about that. Sorry, I just looked at the wrong thing. But like they're 22nd in defensive EPA per play. They are 18th in defensive scoring, which isn't awful. But to me, that is awful when you played the Texans. That's a good opponent. The Packers with Malik Willis at quarterback, who literally didn't do any drop back passing. The Bears, the Steelers, who just benched their quarterback. The Jags, who are pitiful, and then the Tennessee Titans. So if that's where you are defensively after that stretch of football, I think you're going to be like a bottom 5 unit once you start playing good offenses.
Right. The Bengals, Bobby.
I mean, you just said the Colts are in the playoffs at 3-3. The Bengals are at 2-4. Did Sunday Night Football do anything for you with them?
I mean, good on Lou Anarumo for adjusting, and that's what we know for when Lou Anarumo's at his best. He adjusts his defense, and he saw that the Giants have an issue throwing, not being able to throw the ball down the field, not generating explosive plays off of 20+ air yard throws, and they stacked the box and they dared the Giants to do what they don't do well, and they didn't. And instead of playing from light boxes and allowing the Giants to run the ball or operate the quick game really efficiently, the Giants really couldn't do that, and they couldn't sustain drives. They had one 16-play drive that went well for them, and that was it. So, we know Lou Anarumo at his best is adjusting on the fly to things. We're gonna force you to play football in the way that we want you to. Now they're not playing. The next 1, 2, 3 weeks, Bobby, are the Browns, the Eagles, who are a compromised team, and the Raiders. Those seem like 3 wins, and then you're talking about in early November when they're playing the Ravens on Thursday Night Football on November 7th. You're talking about a possible 5-4 Cincinnati Bengal team. But
do you trust them to do that? Because there's been plenty of games where they're like they should win this one. Like even the Panthers game, they barely beat them. The Giants, as much as we wanted a chance in that game, like they barely beat the New York Giants. Like they look bad on offense. They look really bad on offense, honestly.
Yeah. Part of me feels like they needed a game to just get a win because they did so, against the Chiefs. They just found a way to lose that game, right? The Ravens, they just found a way to lose that game, right? In multiple ways. So part of me thinks that they needed a good defensive showing and a defensive outing where the offense wasn't carrying the torch. I think the offense is going to be fine. I think the offense is going to adjust. I think Zach Taylor is going to adjust. But I am still very worried about that defense because I don't consider only allowing 7 points to the Giants as this huge test that the Bengals defense passed, and now I think they could go on a trajectory that's good. I think it's on Lou Anarumo come up with these game plans to find the weaknesses of whatever offense that they're facing and take away what they want to do. I think it's on him because I don't think they have great talent.
No, they don't. And I think the defense is going to be an issue. Like I know you talk about the Eagles. That's a tough one because I don't believe the Browns they'll win that game. The Eagles, I don't know. I probably would pick the Eagles in that if they can run the ball. Raiders, you would pick the Bengals, but I think the Raiders are a team that can upset a team like the Cincinnati Bengals. The Ravens, I'm picking the Ravens. The Chargers, I just don't believe in them. Early year we stuck in hey, this happens every year. I don't believe in that defense. I think the offense is really good, but I think the offense is capable of having stinkers against a team like the Pittsburgh Steelers, or the Chargers. So I don't believe in the Cincinnati Bengals. They've shown me nothing to do that. They've beaten the Carolina Panthers and the New York Giants, and honestly, the win against the New York Giants was ugly, and they gave the Panthers up a lot of points to the Panthers.
So you have the Steelers at 16. I have them at 17. Let's talk about them now because they made the decision to. Do you consider it a benching of Justin Fields? Yes, right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. They're 4.
Do you agree with it or not?
I lightly disagree with it because I think using Justin Fields' legs, leaning into the run is the way that they should lean into having a bad quarterback. And I think Russell Wilson is bad and not going to be able to do some of those things that you can to make up for a bad QB. That way Justin Wilson, Justin Fields is he should be your prime backup quarterback in the NFL. Can run, he can make all the throws when you put him on a platter for him. Not going to see the field super well, but I can't sit here and be oh my God, Justin Fields has that team playing great. No, their offense is bad. They have a bad offense in the NFL. Their defense is really good, and it's led to them being 4-2. But so this is one of those moves where it's I wouldn't do this, but I know I'm not going to be the people who are outraged by this. I also think are a little ridiculous because Justin Fields hasn't been a good quarterback.
I'm not outraged by it, but there is a point to Justin Fields has done everything that the Steelers have asked him to do. He has a career low sack rate right now, which is still close to 10%, so that's not great. But still a career low in sack rate with an offensive line that isn't fantastic. An offensive line that's hurt, by the way. Very hurt. I believe that they are. A career low in pressure rate. An interception rate that is 0.6%. He has 1 interception on the year. I think he's kept the Steelers for a bad offense. And I think the Steelers went into this year understanding that they were going to be a bad offense. I don't think that's their goal. I think their goal is to play time of possession or all this bullshit that I hate as a guy that wants to score points and explosive plays and all this stuff. But they want to take care of the football. And that's what Justin Fields is giving to them. And I do not think that Russell Wilson, and they're also 4-2. That's the biggest thing. They're not 2-4 with a bad offense. They're 4-2. And they're winning games in the way that the Pittsburgh Steelers win games. With fourth quarter turnovers forced. With plays on special teams. That's how they're winning football games. And that's how they want to win football games. And Justin Fields has been a huge part of allowing you to do that by him not making mistakes, him not costing you with negative plays. And I think Russell Wilson is going to cost you with those negative plays. I don't know about interceptions, but I think sacks, fumbles, and reckless decisions with the football, Justin Fields is going to do that. He's going to put you behind the sticks. So then what is a bad offense? With, by the way, the worst wide receivers in the NFL, it's separating. And I think there's numbers to back this up. There's no wide receiver group that is worse than the Pittsburgh Steelers at separating in the NFL. And George Pickens is half-assing, he's so talented, but he's half-assing games. So I don't know. I think Fields has done a good job with a bad situation and a not good situation around him.
I agree 100%, but Russell Wilson played better last year than what Justin Fields is doing right now. So
that's also with Sean Payton though. You have the advantage of Sean Payton, and
sure,
I think Courtland Sutton's pretty good.
Still a bad.
No.
I think it's just as bad as an offensive situation there. But yeah, Sean Payton's the difference. But I think Arthur Smith leans into what Justin Fields does well. I don't know if like Arthur Smith is the offensive coordinator for Justin Fields. But here's the thing: like Fields isn't rushing like he did in past years, where he was averaging like 75 yards per game. He's averaging more attempts per game, but less yards per game than he ever has. So like I'm not going to be super mad at the Steelers for wanting more out of the quarterback position when they have a defense that's good enough to have them at 4-2.
I just don't know if Russell Wilson is that quarterback that will get part of this offense.
That's the problem. That's the problem. But at the same time, like it's been 2 years since we've seen it, Justin. But we have seen Russell Wilson be like a high level passer in the NFL. It's been two, but even like we had one really bad year, and then last year where it was not good quarterback play. But you want to talk about like limiting turnovers and all that. He had 26 passing touchdowns, 3,000 passing yards, and 8 interceptions in 15 games, and had the Denver Broncos at 7-8, where their defense wasn't doing anything, was playing well, but not like it was this year, And I actually want to look at something to see, like Justin Fields stats versus Russell Wilson, like just like success rate.
Yeah, success rate. I think they're about the same. I think Russ had 43.3% last year.
Yeah, they're basically the same.
Interception rate. I mean, it's 1.8% interception rate's pretty damn good. In the NFL,
that's like top of the league.
Fields is that's what
I said. That would be like top of the league by the end of the year.
And then the sack rate's about the same. The Fields is taking sacks Fields is taking sacks this year at a 9% rate, and Wilson did it at like 9% last year too. So it's about the same.
Yeah. So here's the thing: is I do agree with you on this decision because the part of it is I don't think Russell Wilson is good. I was the guy that was on this show saying I think Justin Fields should start from day one to play this style of football that they're playing right now. But if they believe that Russell Wilson gives them like a good bit more in the passing game, then they should make this move. And this could be one of those decisions, Justin, that when it happens, everyone freaks out, and then we look back at it in 4 weeks and like, oh, they're okay. Like, do you think the Steelers would be 4-2 with Russell Wilson at quarterback?
As long as Russell Wilson isn't doing dumb shit, then yes, they would.
Which Russell Wilson didn't do that dumb shit last year.
I know
he created some sacks, but the Steelers are not scoring a lot of points. So, yeah, they're, Justin Fields is avoiding some sacks this year, but they still aren't scoring a lot of points. And sacks aren't points creators for the other team. They're just drive killers. But like the Steelers have beaten this year the Falcons 18-10. I think Russell Wilson could have won that game. The Broncos 13-6. I think he could have won that game. They beat the Chargers 20-10. I think he could have won that game. Lost to the Colts, lost to the Cowboys, and then beat the Raiders 32-13. Like, I think they might just be 4-2. And if you said, oh my gosh, they're going to bench Russell Wilson, and Russell Wilson was playing similar level of football he's played last year, said, why would they bench Russell Wilson now? So I think they just want more out of the quarterback position, and they think Russell Wilson offers them that.
It's fair.
Instead of, like, they probably just don't want to play this, like, bullshit offense all year long. Now, again, I don't think Russell Wilson's going to give them much, but they are bad. If their defense wasn't good, nobody would blink at this, is what I'm saying. So it's their defense molds basically every narrative around this offense.
And it'll be on national television too. We're Sunday night, Jets Steelers.
Which I think the Jets are going to win that game. So we'll see.
Yeah, I feel like that leash is going to be, at least with the fan base. I mean that fan base is gonna eat Russell Wilson alive.
Yeah, it's weird timing.
First game
because the fan base embraced this Justin. That's what this. They embrace some of this Justin Fields football, and they're probably going to lose to the Jets. I would imagine, and then yeah. So I understand. Like if I was Mike Tomlin, I would not have made this decision. But if they beat the Jets, then it's he looks like
then they look like geniuses.
Yeah.
All right, Bobby Skinner, I want to talk to you about something. A chill is in the air. Leaves are falling to the ground And there's football on every single weekend, and that's what fall is all about. You can make each weekend even more exciting by getting into the action with our partners over at the DraftKings Sportsbook. Did you know, if you're listening to this, that DraftKings is the number one place to bet on touchdowns. And right now, all new customers, if you bet just $5, you're instantly going to get $200 in bonus bets when you use code football today. All one word. That's $200 in bonus bets instantly. Stay in on the action and use your $200 in bonus bets to bet anytime touchdowns on DraftKings. DraftKings is the place to bet on touchdowns. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now. New customers use promo code football today, all one word. Bet $5 on any wager, get $200 in bonus bets instantly. That's promo code football today, only at the DraftKings Sportsbook. Bobby Skinner, you'll be glad you did.
You'll be glad you did. All right, what's the next tier, Justin?
The next tier is 9 through 16. Give it to me.
16, I have your Pittsburgh Steelers. Want to talk about them? 15, the Chicago Bears. Talked about them. 14, your Philadelphia Eagles. 13, the Washington Commanders. 12, the New York Jets. Ooh, every team that's below them with a better record, get angry. Get so angry. Oh my God, the Jets, they're a mess. They are. 11, the Los Angeles Chargers. 10, the Tampa Bay Bucks. And then 9, the Dirty Birds in Atlanta, the Atlanta Falcons.
All right, 16, I have the Seahawks. I have the Jets at 15. So that's one of our biggest differences too. I have the Chargers at 14. I have the Eagles at 13. I have the Bears at 12. The Falcons at 11. The Commanders at 10. And the Bucks at 9. Who's the best team in the NFC South?
You got to say it's the Atlanta Falcons. Best record, and they beat the Bucks a week ago. Now the Bucks went to overtime, and the Bucks didn't get a chance to match, so you can make an argument. But I believe more in that Atlanta defense, and the more healthy that Kirk Cousins gets, and puts up games like he has the last fuck the Kirk Cousins is healthy enough to put up that show he did on Thursday Night Football. They put up a lot of points on the Panthers. I believe in that offense.
I believe in that Bucks offense more.
I do too, but I believe in the Falcons defense way more than the Bucks defense. I know the Bucks defense can create more chaos and stuff, but the Falcons on the back end are pretty damn good.
I know.
Their linebackers
the Bucks are just so
good.
young. The Bucks are young. They're unproven. I know they have Antoine Winfield. McCollum's kind of coming into his own, but I like the safety duo of Whitehead. They're not good right now. The Bucks defense is not good, and I can easily envision a path where the Falcons defense gets better under Raheem Morris. Then I'm kind of just hoping that Bucks some of these players just get better. What's Kalijah Kancey doing, man?
Well, he played one game. He played his first game back.
Okay, then Bucks defense is going to turn it around. Kalijah Kancey is going to lead the way.
Actually, though,
he did get a sack. Yeah, it was his first game. Got a sack. 2 tackles for loss. Oh yeah, hell yeah.
He's back. He's so freaking back. I love you, Kalijah Kancey. I would rather have you than Deontay Banks. Suck it. We didn't have the option at that, but I would be victory lap. It would be victory lapping. I literally would rather move the Bucks up in the power rankings because of my love for Kalijah Kancey. Might be my favorite player in the NFL. Stay healthy, my friend, and continue to dominate offensive lines. I think this is one where you can make the argument that you can't just go off of a head-to-head, but I think better record, head-to-head Atlanta, and the Bucks aren't overly talented where you're gonna they're gonna get it better and figure this out as it goes. The quarterback versus quarterback matchup, you could pick either or as the guy that you'd rather have. Kirk's more proven. I go Atlanta.
Still waiting for that Atlanta running game to. They're not bad. I think they're average right now.
But they should be better than that.
They're supposed to have a kick-ass offensive line, and then you have one of the best running back duos in the NFL, and then one of the best running backs in the NFL, in Bijan Robinson. So that's what I'm waiting for. Do you have a good read on why that running game isn't really getting it going yet, or do you have I got to watch a little bit more and shit like that?
Well, they're a team that should be running outside zone, but that's all they run, and it's mix in some other stuff because teams are just going to start playing the outside zone on that. And they're still they are a good to me they are a good Like they're a good enough running team.
If they start to get dominant, where they can run at will, and it's like, okay, well, we could do whatever we want, where Kirk can throw, but they do feel very like Captain Kirk, win the game, hero ball right now, which is, there's nothing wrong with that. This is a quarterback-driven league. But there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, but they're ninth in rushing success rate, and they don't have the benefit of QB rushing that a lot of teams do that like contributes to success rate.
Right. So
they just haven't had the explosives that you would expect when you have Bijan Robinson.
But if they start really like squaring off and like we're going to run the damn, if they should be a team like the 49ers, like the Ravens, like the Bills at times, where we're going to run the damn ball and we're going to be really good at it. And I don't feel like they're there yet. Like they have that game plan, they have that approach. It's like, all right, we're going to come in and we're going to just pound you in the mouth. Hasn't felt like that's worked for them so far this year. If anything, the games that they've tried to do that, it hasn't gone very well for them. So,
yeah, but I do believe that rushing game will get going. You know, you mentioned they're 21st in rushing yards per game, but I think that rushing game can get going.
Yeah,
you know, they're top 10 in efficiency, and basically like every efficiency stat they should get better as it goes. And that passing game, I think, is just going to be flat out good, right?
Yes.
Like they're 8th in EPA per play. They are 9th in passing drop back EPAs. Like I think they're a good enough offense. And the defense, again, what worries me about the defense is they don't get sacks, which is a huge part of the game. But like I really like that back end. You know, they have the best safety duo in the NFL. You know, the only one you can argue really is Kyle Hamilton and Marcus Williams. And you know, I like Matthew Judon, so he can make plays for you. The linebacker group is underrated. They're a good run defense. I have less question marks about the Atlanta Falcons than I do the Bucs.
Yeah, this Bucs defense is just so young, man. McCollum's a young player,
and he's played well too.
He's played very well. I think he's been their best defensive player so far. Obviously, Levante David's been around, but the edge rushers are, you know, Joe Tryon, even though he's on his 5th year option. Yaya Diaby's played really well. Did Yaya Diaby get hurt?
Did he? I hope not, because he's been playing really well.
I know he has. They very much need him. I'm going to do a quick Twitter search. And the top, no injury concerns. From December, no, not that's. If you search Yaya Diaby on Twitter, Yaya Diaby has the highest RAS score out of all defensive ends in this class from April 4th, 2023.
I had him in a mock draft. Don't forget. I didn't think he'd go in the 3rd round, but I did have him in a mock draft.
You'll see my tweet. Yeah, Diaby's been awesome this year, but still, like I think that tells you this Bucs defense. They're relying on some obscure football players to do well for them. Kalijah Cansey, let's go, man. Get healthy and be an impact player.
Yeah, hey, one game he played really well in that one, so that gives you a front of Vita Vea, Kalijah Cansey, and Yaya Diaby. Get some shit done. Levante David's still a good player.
All right, let's do the top 8.
8, I have the Packers. 7, the San Francisco 49ers. 6, the Houston Texans. 5, let's go Buffalo Bills. Actually, I want to say something right now. Now that I'm looking at this, I put the Bills at 5, the Texans at 6. That should be flipped.
I agree with that. I was going to talk about the Texans.
Okay, disregard it. Graphics team, please change that.
Justin.
Thank you, graphics team, Justin Penik. Number 4, the Baltimore Ravens. Number 3, the Detroit Lions. And you know what? I'm putting the Vikings at 2. Like, I think I'm picking the Vikings to beat the Lions this week. Like, that defense is real deal. Like, gonna give them issues, even though the Lions can put up points on them, and I think they will by running the ball. But like I expect the Vikings offense to kind of do whatever they want with the Lions defense. And then number 1, I still have the Kansas City Chiefs. You have Patrick Mahomes, you're undefeated. I'm picking you number 1.
Why was that Lions and Vikings game not flexed? It's the battle of the Bryans, by the way. The big brain Bryans. Brian Flores and Brian Johnson. How do you like that? I'm glad you brought up the Texans. Because, and by the way, the graphics team has reflected the change. Thank you for the heads up. So
Thank you, graphics team.
let the record show you have the Texans 5 and the Bills 6.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
I don't know
graphics
why
team.
I didn't do that.
The question that I was going to ask you about the Houston Texans, are the Houston Texans the quietest elite team in the NFL right now?
Yes.
It's very quiet.
Their only losses to the Minnesota Vikings, who I have a number 2. I know they beat the Patriots this week. So it's not much, and then like we're paying attention more to the element of Drake May. But like the Patriots defense is pretty good, and they dropped 41 points on them without Nico Collins. Like Nico Collins was leading the NFL in receiving, they lost him, and then they dropped 41 points on a defense that's been playing well. And their only losses to the Minnesota Vikings, who have beat basically everybody. Well, they've beat everyone they've played, but they beat good teams.
They're 20, and this is the thing that's crazy to me. And a big conversation about the Texans heading into this year was their early down. Like what are they doing on first and second down? Because they're a team that wants to run the ball, but hasn't been good running the ball. Now Joe Mixon coming back is a huge swing in this, where I feel like they did run the ball quite well this past weekend. Mixon.
And they didn't run it great, but they stay committed to it, and then they broke off some big ones. Dameon Pierce had a 50+ yarder. Joe Mixon had a 50+ yarder. So like they stay committed to it, even though they're not like great down in, down out. Like I'm gonna look at some success rate. You guys have heard about that stat a little bit on this one. They are, where are they? They are 31st in rushing success rate on offense.
Yeah, and on first and second down, they're 28th in EPA per play, and then on third down, they're third. This offense has been C.J. Stroud on third down. That's what this offense has been. And you look at where I don't know where C.J. Stroud is on a lot of like the basic passing numbers, but if you look at C.J. Stroud and like a lot of his advanced numbers, they're not that good. But if you just separate it on third down, it's like, oh yeah, well. That's why C.J. Stroud's a top 5, maybe even top 3 quarterback in the NFL right now.
Yeah.
I looked at, so according to Next Gen, there are 40 pass completions that C.J. Stroud has so far this year under pressure. C.J. Stroud leads the league this year, according to Next Gen, in passing yards while under pressure. So I looked at, I made a top 10 highlight reel of C.J. Stroud throws under pressure. Like the top 4 throws are just crazy. Just it's insane stuff, and for a guy like he's a pure pocket passer, but also it sometimes bothers me when people say, "Oh, well, he is a pure pocket passer, and he does all these things and manipulates in the pocket." He can, but the dude could also throw on the run too. Like let's not act like that's not part of CJ. That's not in his bag too. Dude could do anything, and the way that he's processing, and I want to hate Bobby Slowick for not making his life a little bit easier on early downs, but the shit just seems to work, so I can't hate it, because also C.J. Stroud's just awesome that he can do anything.
Yeah, like they're legit. Now, here's the thing is, we've talked about it in the offseason about the Texans, like they rely so much on third down. It's like they can't continue to do that. Well, they've continued to do that, and they do that well.
Yeah.
But does it catch up with them as once they get into the play? Like, does that, again, I talked about it. You look at their total rushing numbers, Justin. I'm going to look it up right now. I bet you they're good because they have these big rushing games, but they're not an efficient, efficient running game. They're essentially 31st in efficiency, and also
but the raw numbers, they're 17th in yards per attempt, 13th in total yards, and 11th in attempts. So I mean that's their defense. I'm sorry, they're 16th in yards per attempt. They're 14th in yards, and they're 19th in total attempts as an offense. So, I mean, those basic numbers are not bad, but I don't think they're a good rushing team. Again, Nixon's coming back. So
I had that thought because obviously I watched that game closely because of Drake May. Justin, I was like, this run game's not good because you look at the box score before you do a full watch of the game. Like, oh, good rushing game. I was like, where's the good rushing? And then you see these are couple big runs that are skewing the numbers here. That's what they are. But they stay to it. Also, I want to talk about EPA per play.
Sure.
I know sometimes that gets frowned upon. I think EPA per play is the best box score stat. And for people who don't know what EPA per play is, or EPA. It's basically just telling the difference between a 15-yard pass on 1st and 10 and 3rd and 20.
Very good point.
That's basically what it is. It's like, for all you baseball nerds, it's basically like completion percentage is batting average. EPA per play is OPS plus or whatever.
Yeah.
Where it's
almost like
the
WAR too.
The most casual of casual fans are like, what is this stat? And the people who are just like basic fans, like you should learn what EPA per play is, because it's, or just EPA. I think it's the best thing. But I'm going to say this because you mentioned the 3rd down number for the Texans, and they are the second best on EPA per play on 3rd down. The difference, though, I'm going to look at this: 0.335 minus 0.433.
There's a lot of teams that are tight within that.
The Commanders are first. The difference between the Commanders and the Texans is the difference between the. Oh fuck! My page messed up. Hold on, while I get that thought.
There's a wide gap, though. I mean, the difference is that the Commanders are running the ball so well on late downs, and they're throwing it extremely efficient too. Because I think, I did a video. I did a video on this on our Substack page, and then I put out a short too. With what the Commanders are doing on late downs is, Bobby, there's like 3rd and 11s, there's 3rd and 13s, or even 3rd and 1, 3rd and 3. Cliff Kingsbury's throwing screens and just dumping the ball off to running backs like Austin Eckler, and there's just space. Against the Ravens, they ran a mesh traffic concept, and Austin Eckler's running a wheel route out of the backfield on like a 3rd and 3.
Yeah,
and it turns into a 30-yard gain. I mean, if you're playing off, if it's 3rd and long, and you're playing off with cushion, they're gonna pull receivers down the field, and Cliff Kingsbury is not afraid to just check it down to a running back, and it will turn into a 20, 30-yard gain because of how much space. Just create space. I can't believe we're talking about in the 2024. Can't believe we're talking about how Cliff Kingsbury's fucking is an innovator.
The difference between 1st and 2nd, the Commanders and Texans, is the difference between 2nd and 23rd, the Philadelphia Eagles, or between 22nd, the Seattle Seahawks. How about that? Anything else from this tier, Justin?
No, I mean the Chiefs are still number 1, of course. Who do they have? They have the 49ers.
Vikings, Lions battling for maybe even number 1. If the Vikings beat the Lions, I might just put them up to number 1. Maybe even the Lions too.
Yeah, and maybe if the 49ers, they can beat the Chiefs, then definitely I think we will have a new number 1. I have the Ravens at 2. You have the Ravens at 4, so that's a little bit of a discrepancy inside the top 8. But again, I'm not batting an eye. I mean, these are the best NFL teams. The Packers are another team that's quietly doing well. Jordan Love had a really good game, made some nice throws. But that's it, man. There's a couple matchups, like you said, between the Vikings and the Lions. The Chiefs and the 49ers, some of these top 8 teams are playing each other, and that's going to be a ton of fun.
All righty. All right, well, we will see you on Friday for our preview-ish pod. We're changing shit up, guys. We're changing it. Everything's changing. Life is changing. The leaves are turning. You'll be glad you did. We'll see you then. Until then, that is football today.